We have a big announcement from CBS News. Norah O'Donnell will officially take over as anchor and managing editor of the CBS Evening News on Monday, July 15th.
Mark your calendar.
Mark it.
Norah is an Emmy Award-winning journalist who joined CBS This Morning as a co-host in 2012. Before that, she was the chief White House correspondent for CBS News. Here's a special preview.
She's brought us the world.
It is a new day here in this country.
And told America's most important stories.
How does a government shutdown affect national security?
Now, she brings us truth and understanding right when we need it most.
Wow, this is pretty spectacular.
The CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell, beginning July 15th.
Very cool. Thunderbirds.
Norah, you've been busy. This is your life, Norah.
I've done just about everything in the almost 7 years that I co-hosted CBS This Morning. So that's where a lot of that footage came from.
Right, and now you are the third woman to host an evening news broadcast. That must have been something you contemplated as you considered this role. Yeah.
It's weighty, certainly, you know, and I'm humbled and honored by the opportunity, certainly to take on this role that Walter Cronkite held this seat, you know, for more than 2 decades. And I think, you know, the CBS Evening News is revered because it is considered the most trusted source of news. And we need that more than ever. Walter Cronkite said journalism is what we need to make democracy work. We do, you know. Those of us who are proud journalists, we're truth tellers. You know, I think journalism can do a role in exposing abuse, corruption, and also highlighting what's working across the country. And so, you know, CBS is the gold standard of news. We do original reporting, great storytelling. We should have a connection with our viewers in everything we do. And that's what the CBS Evening News will continue to be.
So, you know, you've always been sort of a pioneer, Norah, but just I want to highlight that point that you're the third woman to ever solo anchor an evening news broadcast. That's remarkable. And yet, it's 2019. Do you think about that, you know, that you're the third to do so, and there are a lot of young women out there who are watching you and who've seen the others and who've seen Katie and Connie and Diane and think to themselves, you know, can I ever get to that point in my career?
Well, look, our businesses and our news should be representative of the public and should be inclusive. It should be diverse. And so I think that's great, you know, that we're doing this. It was interesting. Oprah called me when this was announced, and she said, you know, this is your supreme destiny. And she said to me, I can remember watching Diane Sawyer one day when she was in one foreign country and then she was in another foreign country. And Oprah said, there are so few women who get to speak about the world and to the world. And you are now one of those people. And of course, I was scribbling down everything Oprah was saying, you know, because she speaks in such a way that, you know, it is so meaningful, and I really appreciated her saying that. So I think, you know, that's how important is that what all of we do at CBS. And I think, you know, there's a lot of sources of media out there. If people want affirmation, they can tune in to cable channels and get a political point of view that they agree with. If you want information, turn to the CBS Evening News, because we're about the facts. We know that there's a lot of different information sorting out there, and so we want to give people in 30 minutes the truth. Trusted news, real news, stories that matter to you, stories that can help our democracy work by informing us, because information is power, and information is incredibly important, and we have to have a factual source of information.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of that, we're launching into the 2020 election season, the campaign season. It's become, I think, even more challenging to cover politics now because people have so many options, so many different sources to get information, and certainly, you know, the person in the Oval Office right now is kind of like finger wagged us a lot about fake news and the quality of the information that's going out. I wonder if you've sort of contemplated how the Evening News wants to cover this election and how to make sure that we, you know, don't become sort of a target.
Yeah, sure. Well, look, I've covered 6 presidential elections. I was out there as a correspondent traveling in Iowa and New Hampshire and all the battleground states. I do believe that the 2020 presidential election is the most important election of my lifetime. There's a reason there's 24 Democrats running, 6 women running, the most diverse field ever. And so there's going to be a lot of people putting out policy proposals and talking about that. What can we do? The CBS Evening News, we've talked about this. We're going to fact check the proposals. We're going to do stories not about the horse race, who's up, who's down, but substantive discussions about what someone is proposing. Bernie Sanders' proposal today to eliminate all student debt. Well, Elizabeth Warren has a proposal to do that as well. It's a different type of how she would tax individuals, very wealthy individuals. But how can we bring meaning and understanding? Because I approach every interview by saying, I am doing this, my intention is to further understanding. Right?
Yeah.
The questions that I ask so that we can understand more of these complex issues, because they are complex, but we have to be focused, at least those running for office, and I think those who vote for them and cover them, we have to be focused on the solutions and helping people understand what they mean and how it would get done, whether it's realistic or not.
You know, Norah, one of the things, in addition to just cheering you on when you were announced as the new anchor of the evening news, was the fact that you were also a managing editor. And that has historically been attached to the person who sits in that chair. You know, Walter had it, and even Scott Pelley had it. And I remember, as a first-time correspondent at CBS News, getting calls in my first week from Scott with questions that he had about my script or with some information that I had reported on he wanted to clarify. How do you see that role going forward?
Yeah, it means that, you know, I will have a role in what stories we cover and how we cover them. And, you know, I was a White House correspondent at NBC. I was chief White House correspondent at CBS. So I worked with many incredible anchors, you know, including Tom Brokaw and Scott Pelley. I was the White House correspondent then. And there should be a strong relationship between the correspondent and the anchor that you described, which is not only acknowledging the type of work that they do, but also saying this is the editorial focus. And so I think that's one of the things that, as we grow in, you know, as a team on the evening news, since I'm new there too, is providing the editorial focus so that we know exactly what's going to be on the broadcast that night.
I think that's really good to share, because I think people sometimes think that anchors just sit at a desk and read the news. And it's so much more than that.
Well, as you know, I do a lot of reporting every day. I mean, I did this on CBS this morning too. I mean, those interviews, whether it was Tim Cook, you know, at Apple, that's something we worked on as a team for like 2 years. You know, I had several meetings with him off the record. The CEO of Boeing, you know, that was a collaborative effort as a team, but that was also a lot of personal phone calls that I made. Every single one of these interviews, you know, ones that we've invested a lot of time talking with people in order to not only gain their trust, but also say how CBS is going to present it in a fair manner. And I think that's why people trust and love CBS, because they know they're getting the truth from us, and by people who are not trying to score political points or a gotcha or whatever it may be.
You've interviewed so many people. You mentioned some of them and the folks that you interviewed at CBS This Morning and as a correspondent, but who's left that you would like to talk to? Maybe the Pope? I don't know. There's, you know, interesting people.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I grew up in Seoul, South Korea. My father served in the Army for 30 years. My sister now serves in the Army. So
you actually started your broadcast career.
I did. I started
when you were
as a 10-year-old.
As a 10-year-old, yeah.
So I've always been fascinated by the Korean Peninsula. I have interviewed the South Korean president, President Moon. So I would love to interview the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, who has never done an interview. So that's on the list, certainly. And then more fun, Justin Timberlake, because he's Justin.
JT.
He doesn't do a lot of interviews either.
That's right.
So listen, very quickly before we I know we have to let you go soon, but the whole entire broadcast is moving to Washington.
Yes.
Tell me about that decision.
Yes, so we're going to, as we announced on July 15th, the broadcast will debut here in New York. And then later in the fall, we will move the broadcast to Washington, D.C., because every decision has a nexus with Washington, D.C. Think about that, whether it's higher taxes, whether it's policies that regulate clean air, clean water, whether it's the immigration debate. So what we're going to do is just expand on the resources of CBS News in order to do that. But I'll be here in New York. You guys won't be able to get rid of me, because I'm continuing my commitment, you know, at 60 Minutes as well. And that's based out of here, although we have some correspondents in D.C. and producers as well. So.
Exciting.
I think it's great.
How excited are you? I mean, just to take away, you know, we talked about some very, you know, weighty subjects here, but just the excitement to get going, the fact that, you know, the broadcast is going to be in D.C., which is a new thing for us. I'm
incredibly excited about it. You know, humbled, really, by the opportunity, because it is a big role, but I'm incredibly excited. I've been spending a lot of time traveling the country, meeting with our affiliates and local stations, hearing about what they would like to have out of the CBS Evening News, you know, listening to their ideas. And so I've been on a plane a lot. I'm racking up the frequent flyer miles, and I'm really enjoying it. So it's because, you know, the CBS family extends just beyond here, the broadcast center. It's certainly our bureaus, and it's all the affiliates together that make this such a great place.
We're so excited,
Yeah.
and we're so excited you were able to come by and chat with us. I know you're crazy busy, so this is really great.
Stop number one.
All right.
There you go.
And
Priorities.
I should mention this, which is that thank you to CBSN, because the CBS Evening News is rebroadcast at 10 p.m. Every night. And I think not many people know that. In fact, a friend of mine sent me the note when you guys had your big ratings announcement about how many millions of streams CBSN gets. And he said, you need to be part of CBSN. And I said, I am. It's going to air at 10 p.m. every night. So that's really the future, is different ways people get their news. So thank you for hosting the Evening News.
It's great for us.
Yeah,
It's great
exactly.
for you. It's great for us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Norah.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
The CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell will air weeknights at 6:30 Eastern on your local CBS station. Check your local listings. We, of course, will also stream the show at 10 p.m. Eastern right here on CBSN.